Ever since I can remember for myself, I've always kind of loved playing video games, and I always kind of loved playing video games in which where, you go from a low level to a high level. I guess every video game is the same, like that. But I love playing role-playing games, RPG games. So I played stuff like Oblivion, Skyrim, back in the day, Morrowind, like Elder Scrolls games. I love those the most. I also grew up with a brother, and so we played a lot of FIFA or Pro Evolution Soccer. It was initially, then went to FIFA, and we kind of stayed with FIFA. But ever since I can remember for myself, I always loved those games where you can kind of put in time into your character or your team, and then eventually, be the best in the game. One of the things I used to love playing in FIFA is, taking a fifth division team in the English league in England, from the fifth division, fourth division, whatever it was, and take them all the way up year after year, get promoted, get into the Premier League, and then eventually win the Premier League, win the Champions League, all with this like scrubber team that doesn't even have like 2 cents to their name. I loved doing that. I loved putting in time, developing players, recruiting players in the youth academy, finding new talent, training them. I always loved doing that. I loved playing Skyrim. You start with level 1, you're always running around, you hit somebody, run around, hide, all that stuff, and then eventually you get to like level 50 and you're the best in the game, you're killing everyone, you got the best gear and all of that. So I've always kind of loved doing that. I loved progressing my characters, loved progressing my team. And so I played, man, from 10 years old, video games, whenever we came to Australia, and we actually, even in Yugoslavia, we had stuff, but it wasn't as readily available as here. We got PlayStation at 10 years old, and we played, basically every day. I remember my team. Some of my best moments as a team was playing FIFA or playing Pro Evolution Soccer with friends, where we'd have like 4 people, and we'd, more Kappa tournament, and we'll play, and that was the best. And it wasn't until kind of like my late 20s, early 30s that I kind of realized, why don't I take that same mentality that I had for video games into real life? Why don't I upgrade my character? Why don't I upgrade Ivan? Why don't I level up my character? It's not as sexy real life because it takes so damn long. In a video game, you might go from level 1 to level 15 in the space of like one night in Skyrim. If you play really well and whatever, and you know your way around the game, you can do that. With FIFA, I remember clocking seasons in one day. You do 5-minute halves or 4-minute halves. So one game will, go for 8 minutes, 10 minutes. So you can when you're on annual leave or when you're on school holidays, you can freaking down a whole season. I used to love that. I used to love having, I don't even know what team, like Swansea, not Swansea, what was the teams I used to always get? Accrington City or Accrington Town or something like this. They take them all the way to English Premier League. And it's funny because, you're in the UEFA Champions League against Real Madrid and it's Accrington. I used to love that stuff. So as I've kind of gone older, I've kind of realized, man, eventually all of those video games end. And then you're like, well, it's too easy now. I've got all the best players. Every single position's got 99 overall. My players, in Skyrim, level 90, I can one-shot kill everyone. It's not fun. It's not fun anymore when there's no struggle, when there's no fight. And then what do? Well, you stop playing. And you get another game. Man, I've played Skyrim for like 10, 15 years. I don't even know when it came out, like 2010 or something. I have restarted that video game a million times. I've put in like thousands of hours, in this 10, 15-year period. Why didn't I just use all that time into upgrading myself? Why didn't I work on my skills? So I always had this always had this fire for that progress, for that potential feeling, becoming really, really good. And it was only until like late 20s that I was like, man, this weight training could be that. I could do that. I can level up my character. I go from squatting 1 plate to 2 plates to 3 plates to 4 plates. You can say to yourself, that's level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. And it's basically the same process. It's the same process. You need to gain, experience points, EXP points. You need to, hit people. You need to, level up your character. And so sets and reps and time can be that currency. You need to spend that time with the barbell to increase your level. And so it's very hard for me now, at 30, 32, to kind of play video games, because I'm always like, why am I putting my time into this damn thing, this virtual reality, this fantasy, when I can just do my own thing, and obviously you can't do reps and sets every single day, every single hour of every day, but there's many different things you can upgrade, right? there's one, physical attributes, right? You can improve your physical ability through training. Today I train for an hour, but you can't train 23 hours. With the video game, you can easily spend 12 hours, right? Easily. But there's many different ways you can upgrade. So you spend an hour in the gym, you go home, you watch some videos online, you listen to people. It doesn't have to be about weightlifting. It could be anything. It could be philosophy, right? It could be philosophy, it could be history, it could be anything. But you're constantly learning, you're constantly putting, I guess, different tools to your belt. You're constantly kind of improving and becoming a better character. You can kind of deploy some of this knowledge, some of these newfound abilities in life. And then eventually you might end up the guy who has a really good life, really good happiness, right? Because ultimately, I guess, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think ultimately the number one goal, the way you win life is by being happy. And how do you attain that? How do you get happy? That's kind of the $1 million question, I guess. For me, I've always thought, in my life experience, every single time I've kind of looked out for answers, I never got any. I remember when I first bought my car, at the age of 23, I bought my first Nissan Silvia S15. Man, I loved it. Oh man, it's like I went into the Fast and Furious movie and I got a car out of there. I loved it. But then after 6, maybe 9 months, that started to fade and I was less happy with it. Then I got my second S15, a more done up S15, and that was kind of cool for a bit, but that kind of faded. Then you get an Evo, then you get this, you get that, and I realized that this, consuming mentality, like looking outside for happiness, was always just transient. But whenever I looked inside for answers, address some of my, weaknesses as an individual, address some of these thoughts that I have, outlook in life, this philosophical, I guess, view of life, I was always happier. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that spend some time with yourself. Spend time getting better today, and it can take many different forms. It can, you're working yourself in the gym, and a lot of this stuff is carried over anyway. The stuff that you work, that you gain in the gym, is directly, carried over to other aspects. Ever since I've kind of gotten to 200 kilo squat, I'm more confident. I have better self-esteem. I walk into situations at work or in life, and I don't feel, intimidated by anybody. Because in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I'm all right at weightlifting. There's something that I'm okay at. And you can keep adding those tools to your belt. You get really good at weightlifting. You become a really good historian in World War II. I don't know. You can draw really well. And, if you spend a lot of time with certain skills, people will give you compliments. You know what I mean? Like, just without even you asking, you become better at something. So this video game mentality that I've always talked to people about. I've definitely got lots of friends around me who think the same thing. It's like, man, we spend so many damn freaking hours into these damn video games that at the end of the day mean nothing, because you turn that thing off and you plug back into reality, and it's like there's no carryover there at all. Doesn't matter how many number one players you have in the video game. As soon as you turn that thing off, it's like you put your life on pause. And if I think about how many hours I spent playing video games, dude, if I spend a quarter of that freaking time into something more constructive, I would have been better off. Having that said, I don't think all the time was wasted, because through video games, man, like, I don't know if you boys, and girls play video games, but I think there's a lot to gain from video games. Problem solving, imagination. This stuff that I'm telling you right now is basically grew up in video games. Upping my character. I've just taken that mentality and put it in here. I just wish I didn't spend so much damn time upping virtual reality characters, and I was upping my own character. You know what I mean? So I always kind of think about how maybe this is just a maturity thing. I mean, some of you guys are listening to this and you're 18 years old, and I wish somebody told me this. Make use of your time. Oh man, I remember when I was 16 years old and I meet somebody that's 30. I'm like, dude, you're old, man. You're 30 years old. That's like light years away. I'm that guy now, man. I'm 32 years old. I've got my own kids. I've got my own responsibilities, mortgage and all of that sort of stuff. And I can tell you, the moment you start kind of doing these big life moves, getting married, kids and house and all that, I feel as though the life is freaking taking a fast forward. Somebody's hit a fast forward button in my life. All of a sudden, I don't have a lot of free time. The only free time I really have nowadays is the stuff that I'm doing right now, training, making these videos, and that's it. After that, I'm kind of like, plugged back in. I've got a family and all that, and it's kind of like my time's with them. So there's no way I could say to my wife, hey, I'm going to go to the room and play 12 hours of Skyrim. She'll be like, you're going to do what? It's just, she'll probably let me do that, but it will be very silly of me. Like, I want to spend time with them. I don't want to spend time with this virtual thing. So, when I was 14 years old and I met these 30-year-old dudes, I'll be like, man, I've got plenty of time. But if I had the mentality of a 30-year-old guy at 14, oh, man, the things I would have achieved, the places I would have been at. Oh, man. It's just, I feel like the best thing you can do is mature quickly. You know what I mean? Mature quickly. Some people, unfortunately, through just like misfortunes in life, mature quickly. I don't know how many stories I've heard about these super athletes in the NBA. So many of these dudes, they were like, dude, I was a man of the house at 13 years old. I was going to work at 13. I saw people getting killed in the street at 13. I saw drug deals being done. Dude, when I was 13 years old, man, I was plugged into my virtual reality, up in my, Oblivion character, whatever the hell it was, Skyrim character. So my maturity level was never at the level of some guy seeing, gangbangers shooting in the street. That experience versus my experience is just like day and night. So this guy that sees, the harsh, cruel world will mature quickly, and he won't want to spend time in a video game. You know what I mean? He's going to be like, damn, I got to get out of these damn streets, man. I got to work on my game. I got to get a jump shot. When I get a jump shot, I can buy a house. If I have the best jump shot in this damn state, I'm going to the NBA. Think about that. A jump shot can get you out of the streets. So this is the reality of some of these dudes. What are you going to do, man? Some of these guys don't have the opportunity to go to school and do well in school. They don't have the resource. They don't have the environment. They're always on the street. So if you're going to be on the street, pick up a basketball and start shooting hoops. If you get really good at that damn thing, you can go to the NBA, man. Like these things are like, now that I'm looking back, man, people say to me, what would you give yourself at 14 years old? What sort of advice? I wish I could freaking transplant my brain into a 14-year-old. Obviously, you can't do that. But there's a reason why a lot of these guys at the top, have all come from the street. Not all of them, but there's a lot of them who they were meant at 13, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was very lucky to get out of the situation that I was at in Yugoslavia. Came to Australia. My parents took care of me really well. They worked hard to provide for us. I wasn't on the street. I had everything that I needed, from the ages of 11 years onwards or 10 years onwards when I came to Australia. But in a way, providing for your kids, it's fantastic. You make sure they don't go down the wrong lane, but they don't get the experiences being near that lane, if you know what I mean. Me as a father right now, I'm doing the same thing. I want to do everything for my kids, make sure that they have everything that they need. But I know very well that they're not going to have the same experience that I had. Their experience is going to be better than me. I was, first, I was the first generation, migrant. Like we didn't have a lot when we came to Australia. My parents, my kids are going to have a lot more than I had when I was 10 years old or 12 years old. But LeBron James, he didn't have shit at 13, 12 years old. He worked real hard. So he used all of his time. So if you want to up your level your character, you need to have some sort of motivation. You need to have a clearer lens to what life really is. And it's just the way it is. Like, if you live in a really good country and you have, really good, environment around you, unfortunately, there's a potential price to pay for that. And that's lack of maturity. We all kind of develop later. But guys who are like in Afghanistan right now and all that mess that's happening right now, in the Middle East, some of these third world countries through Asia, Africa, they got no time. Even if they had the damn video game, they got no time. They got to go get some water and pick out some rice and provide for the family. I would argue that there's a 16-year-old kid out there somewhere in the world that's more mature than me at 32. You know what I mean? So if you're listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, man, what do I want to do in life? I know it's uncomfortable and you kind of want to still be a kid, but I don't want to tell anybody you got to grow up when you're freaking 10 years old and become a man at 10. Obviously, your childhood is very, very important and you don't want to grow up too quickly. But there's a fine line there. If you grow up quicker than me, you're probably going to be more successful than me. You're going to have more maybe chance than me. But if you're always, plugged into your video game and clocking FIFA seasons every single day, and you're playing Skyrim, you're not really having the right experiences. You're not really putting the right fuel into that fire in your belly to progress and do well. There's a reason why a lot of these grades that we see surrounding the TV and media and all of that, they've usually come from, really bad beginnings. So up your own character, limit the amount of time you spend upping somebody else's character or some virtual reality fantasy stuff. Do something today, whatever it is. You guys know what it is. You know what will get you better today. But do something today to level up your own character. Peace out.